Hi, I'm Dr. Hetty Bryant and I'm going to give you a short video on personality tests which are relevant to Assessment 1. So I thought this was a great picture to start off with. Steve Jobs. What type of leader would a personality test reveal of Steve Jobs? An interesting thing for us to contemplate. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview of personality and self-assessment testing, and I urge you to read more in the topics, topics 2 and 3, and you'll find out more there. So I'm just going to give you a bit of an overview. They're quite often used to modify behaviour and thinking patterns. Some tests do not vary and are based on our innate characteristics. For example, the Myers-Briggs type indicator or the Majors personality testing type indicator. Those tests don't vary. So you normally undergo a test and then when you do it again 10 years later, quite often you'll get the same results. They might be a little bit different, but normally they're your innate characteristics. But they're only as successful as your truthfulness. So remember that. And also when you're completing a test, do it quickly. Don't think too much about it. Go with your gut. There's consensual validity. That is, using others to rate and assess you makes the process more robust. So these instruments have been developed over a long period of time and research and theory, and they're based on other people's testing as well. So they're based on different theoretical constructs, as I said a minute ago, mostly psychological, and it's interesting. You need to really be thinking about too, in the context of this and in the context of your assessment, how do the theories relate to your leadership? Okay, so the theories that you're learning, how are they relating to your leadership? And they're mostly focused on singular, individual and more heroic, as I call them, leadership, rather than a collective leadership, although some models do test teams. For instance, the Majors personality type inventory and the Lifestyles inventory index. That's just a cute little one. It's called the DOPE, and you need to find out what bird you are. So some of the types. Now the ones that are used the most are the Myers-Briggs and the Majors. And there's 16 different types, and I'm not going to go into detail as to what they are here. But if you do the test, or if you've already done the test, you'll have a profile, and it's made up of four different areas, 4 different characteristics. It's based on Jungian theory, and it's based also on your personality, which is established in childhood and evolves. So there's sequential, there's stages of your life. So you've got childhood, then things change in adolescence, and then your youth to your mid-30s, and then midlife. And as that goes, you may have the same type, but you'll start to bring out less dominant functions. Okay? I'm accredited in this instrument, that's why I'm kind of going into a bit of detail on this. And it's based on extroverts, introverts, sensing or intuiting, how you actually bring in information, whether you bring it in a very concrete experiential way or whether you look at it in a very big picture conceptual way. Thinking or feeling, and none of these are dichotomies, but none are right or wrong, and there's shades in between. And then there's thinking and feeling. So people that are in the thinking, the T, they're more, they look at protocols and principles and those sort of things on which to base their decisions. So this is about basing your decisions. They look at things, the rational. Whereas feeling people go more with their gut. They make decisions based on worth, values. They like to have consensus and harmony. And then we have judging and perceiving, and it doesn't really mean judging. And this is how you actually plan your life or not. So judging people have everything planned. When you go on a holiday with them, they've got a really great itinerary if they're very high on the J. Perceiving people are really happy for things to emerge. You know, it doesn't matter whether there's a deadline, they'll get to it or whatever. They're great people to go on holidays with because in an emergency they just swing into gear because they didn't have any preconceived ideas as to what the plan would be. Majors is a simpler test than the MBTI. Both do require debriefing. So if you're going to do an online one of these tests, it's really important that you actually get someone to do a bit of a debriefing with you. Now, I am accredited in this, so if anyone does do the test and they just want a quick maybe 15, 20-minute debriefing, I'm happy to do that. Okay? So then there's more types of personality tests. There's the leader-member exchange, which is... it says page 39 of your text, but it's not particularly this text, I don't think. It might be another text. But the leader-member exchange, so there's role-taking and role-making and in and out groups, okay? But there's an online questionnaire that you can do. And then there's lifestyles inventory which is the human synergistics model, which a lot of human resource and organisational development practitioners used, and it's based on beliefs, values, behaviours and assumptions and Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And we end up with blue, green and red, and we're really always trying to move towards the green and the blue, okay, and getting out of the red. So the blue's really into the self-actualizing. So we want to get across the blue and the green. And then there's emotional intelligence, or the EQ by Daniel Goleman, and there are online tests for emotional intelligence as well. And then, as I said before, there's a DOPE, which is a bit of a funny little one, but some people find that quite useful as well. Not too sure that it's so strongly based on theory. This one, the Big Five test, is in your topic readings. And it's based on Big Five. Openness to experience, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness and neuroticism. And Howard suggests that leadership is characterised by low neuroticism and agreeableness scores, and more on high extroversion, openness and conscientiousness scores. So for Howard, natural leaders defined in big terms, you know, is resilient, energetic, outgoing and persuasive, visionary, competitive and dedicated to a goal. Now, having said that, a lot of leaders and a lot of key leaders, if you look online, are high on the introvert scale as well. So extroversion doesn't always, it might manifest that people are outgoing and energetic and persuasive, but their innate personality preference may be introvert. And there's nothing wrong with being an introvert or an extrovert. It's just the way you are. Extroverts draw their energy from being with a lot of people and socialising. Introverts are quite happy with their own company, reading a book, not going out at night socialising, etc. But either aren't right or wrong. So I want you to stop and reflect what type of personality test would actually suit you. Okay? So asking some key questions. Is your personality fairly stable? And is it predictable by a set of traits? Which some people it isn't. So you'll resonate towards a test that feels right for you. Okay? It has its place, and we don't get hung up on personality tests. It's more of a way of locating where you are. And I urge you to start identifying a test for assessment 1. So the assessment tasks for this there's 4. Identify an online leadership self-assessment tool, which we've just talked about. Take the assessment, report the findings. That's the first section. Describe and critique the underpinning theoretical basis for this assessment to the leadership. Discuss in detail your personality type and how it relates to your leadership capacity on an individual and an organisational level, either in your current work or non-work context. So you can be looking at a professional body or a community organisation you identify with. But application's really important. Discuss how you will put into practice the knowledge of self you have gained as a result of completing this self-assessment. So putting it into practice is so important. The marking criteria, please follow the marking criteria. So the first thing is identifying your personality online inventory. Then there's the scales from high distinction down to fail, which most people do not fail. You only fail when you don't attempt the task at all, most of the time. Describe and critique the theoretical underpinnings. So critique means that you have to compare and contrast different parts of literature. You have to really look more deeply. It's not a descriptive. You can do a description, but you'll only get a credit or below. You really have to draw from the literature more widely. Discuss the personality type as it relates to your leadership capacity. So this is about your application and how you would put it into practice. So really deeply engage with this to get a higher mark. And then finally, the presentation is so important. So writing clearly without typographical errors, topic sentences, no spelling or grammatical errors, etc. And really making sure that you correctly cite literature and your reference list is accurate as well. So please go and have a look at, and I'll talk about the reference list in a minute. So it's really important that you put a cover sheet in with all of those things on the cover sheet. A lot of people don't put a cover sheet, page numbers or anything, and it's sometimes hard for me to know who they are. I mean, I do because I know when it comes in, but this is good practice. Put a contents page, so a table of contents, introduction, which outlines the purpose and context of the assessment, and the body of the assessment. So these are just some suggested headings. Now, conclusion shouldn't say conclusion there. The conclusion should be at the end. For some reason, it's clicked over. So there's some of the suggested headings, then a conclusion, then a reference list using the APA style. And there's a link to the APA style guide. Okay? And these are some references and further reading, which you've also got in your reading list and in your topics. Lots of resources have been provided for this. So you've got a really great start, particularly if you're new to back into studies. This will really support you. So lots and lots of resources here. If you have questions about anything, but I have set up an assessment discussion forum, place your questions there. It's really a good idea to put them up there, okay? Otherwise, you can email me. That's the best way. You can ring me as well, but that's on Monday mornings from 10 till 12 and some Thursdays between 3 and 5. If I don't answer, I'll get back to you. Send me an email though, and then I'll always get back to you within, 3 days or whatever. It's normally a lot less than that. And I am trying to avoid working on weekends as well. So if something goes belly up on the weekend and I don't respond to you, I apologise, but I'm trying to get a work-life balance. And I really like Nelson Mandela. I've just clicked off that. If you don't allow people to contribute to offer their point of view, or to criticise what has been put before them, then they can never like you. And you can never build that instrument of collective leadership. And that's what we're aiming at in this subject, to build some collective leadership. Okay? So this starts off about you and the individual, but we want you to relate this to your leadership practice with others in your organisation or community. So, good luck with assessment 1 and good luck with your personality test. I really hope you enjoy it. I'm sure you will, because it's a great way of finding out more about self, and we find out about self so we can actually lead others. Cheers.